Live. There. Welcome, everybody. Happy December 13th on this beautiful Wednesday. I am here with the amazing Benson. Hi, Benson. How are you doing today?
Hello, I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm right now traveling and I'm in Indiana to be like auntie extraordinaire. I only have one niece and I'm spoiling as much as possible.
Ooh, what does spoiling entail for you?
It entails a lot of time together mostly and an American Girl doll, which I was really excited to give her. Maybe more excited than she was, but I've since learned from her mother she likes it a lot. And tonight we're gonna
Cool.
go kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese like place. So she's 3. I mean, it's just as
Ooh,
many cuddles as I
nice.
can get.
That sounds fun.
I'm really enjoying it. Welcome
That
everybody.
this
Get
Chuck E.
in
Cheese
here.
place isn't called Freddy's, is it?
I honestly don't know. If it is, I'm gonna text you. Should I be
Have you seen
concerned?
the movie Five Nights at Freddy's?
No, I haven't. Is it a horror movie?
Yes.
Sounds like one. I don't know if
Y-
your name is Fred or Freddie, for some reason you're in a horror movie at some point.
It's really good. You got to watch it before you go tonight.
Okay, cool. If it's Freddy's, I will definitely let you know and then try to watch it before because we've got time before she's out of daycare. So, um, welcome everybody. We are directly in YouTube today, Benson. I kind of feel special. Thank you, Jamil. We get to come straight to everybody live.
Amazing.
It is
Yeah, this
amazing.
is the StreamYard platform. It's a little bit different, a little different than our normal way of doing things, but that's awesome.
I think it's going to be great. Welcome everybody. We This is Wholesale 101. My name is Corey Ann. This is Benson. Our whole job today is to help you get over the hump in your business. And we know the exact tools and we know the ways that are going to get you to that money making activities. And we really want to help you today. So we're going to need activity in the chat. We're going to need to know you're there. We're going to need to know that we're actually being helpful. So please get your keyboards ready. And then I want to know today, like, who's really, really new? If you have never been to Wholesale 101, drop me a 0. If you've never done a deal, drop me a 1. And if you've done more than 5, drop me 5. Well, drop me a 2. Drop me a 2. 0, 1, 2, where are you guys at? I want to know where you're at in your business so that we can hopefully give you the exact tools you need to continue to expand. Welcome, Kevin. It's good to see you. Oh, I'm seeing some ones. Tavon is in the building. Tavon's my guy.
Oh yeah.
Welcome everybody. It's so good to see you guys here. I like look forward to this every week. Just it's so much fun to hang out with you, Benson.
I know. I've been looking forward to it. It's always exciting because you never know what you're going to find during these events, and we inevitably will get some great questions from the audience. You know, sometimes we can check out some new markets, and they always have, good, interesting questions. So I'm excited to see what they have for us today because we've been vibing with the audience lately. Instead of like having our own agenda, we're letting you guys lead what we work on, and so it's been really productive, I think.
I think so too. And next year, like at the beginning of the year, we're going to line up some awesome guests. If anybody missed last week, we had Mahmood on, and Mahmood is a genius in systems. He's also an engineer, so he brings just crazy ideas. And I'm still reviewing my notes from last week. So if you didn't watch last week, go back and see it on YouTube. It's definitely worth it. And we're going to bring more of that in January. But right now, we're pushing into the end of the year, and I know a lot of people are either like looking towards the beginning of next year and being like, it's going to be a new year for me and I'm going to be showing up with new deals. Or you're feeling that Christmas pressure of like, let's get that first deal done. I want some money in my pocket. And those are the kinds of things that are like money making activities only. And those are the kinds of things that Privy can gear you towards so you don't get distracted.
Very cool.
All right, everybody. Thank you for telling me where you landed. And yes, happy birthday, Jamil. His birthday was yesterday, so if you didn't know that, go DM him some love. Absolutely. Um, we're gonna pop into Privy to start. We're focused in Privy today. So if you don't have Privy, I highly suggest it. I am both a wholesaler and an agent, and I don't use the MLS nearly as much as I use Privy. So please go grab it before we're even working so you can work alongside us. And you're going to need the promo code DAMG to do that. And if you use that, you're going to get 30% off the annual package or 20% off the first month. So I highly suggest that. And then will you just show us to start, Benson? Like, what are we looking at when we pop into Privy? Tell us a little bit more about these colors. And if we're new and we don't know what market we're going to, how is this going to gear us in the right direction?
Yeah. So, one of the things that we do oftentimes is, we're really just, we don't have a lot of time, right? We don't have a lot of time in our businesses. So you might have, a couple hours during the week, or maybe you have a few hours on a weekend. And so we basically go look for deals where we live. You've been really good about looking for opportunities outside of Colorado, because you're in a smaller market, right? You're in a smaller market, which doesn't have a ton of investor activity. So you said, okay, I'm going to start looking for deals outside of my own backyard. And that's not comfortable for most people. But I want you to start getting comfortable with it, because honestly, if you use the strategy that we're going to show you today, you can do deals anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's your own backyard, or if it's all the way across the country, or if you're in a different country altogether. You can definitely do deals in the US, and we have got lots of Privy users that do. So don't let your backyard stop you from being able to go and find the best opportunities, right? Because that you can truly find good opportunities if you target high investor activity areas. But if you target an area that doesn't have a bunch going on, you're really limiting yourself, and you're putting a ceiling on the amount of success that you can have.
Absolutely. I live rural Colorado, and so I'm outside of that blue bubble that you're seeing, where there's MLS access and even investor activity. And I know that by using Privy and using its resources. And that's why I also have the other market that is Tampa. And I work in Florida where all that blue is.
Yeah.
All of that investor activity. And really, because I live rural in Colorado, both of my markets I do virtually. I'm not driving 3 hours to Denver to walk any of my Colorado properties either. I'll stay with
Right.
my
And yeah, and for some people too, they think, okay, well, like you chose Colorado or you chose Denver because it was close, right? Closer, relatively closer, but it actually happens to have investor activity. But for a lot of people, they'll try to choose a city that's close to them because they think, okay, well, if it's relatively close, that's better than if it was across the country. My rule of thumb is that if it's too far to drive, it can be the other side of the country. Like, it doesn't matter if it's close or not at some point, because you're not really going to go drive there to look at houses anyway, right?
Right. Absolutely. And I just saw that Jacob asked, are we going to do comps today? Absolutely. We love doing comps. But first, when you're jumping into wholesaling, and I saw a lot of people that dropped a one, we want to help kind of gear you towards two things. You've got to know what market you're working in and hone in and claim it. That means don't look at other markets. And you need to know, what angle are you coming into this business? Are you really looking at the AC side, or are you looking at the dispo side? Because you have access in Privy to finding either deals on the MS or finding buyers. And so knowing which direction you're coming from is super important. And that's really where we start in the map. So before we're doing comps, I would love to know, where would you guys like us to dive in? Can I get some drops in the comments as to, ideally in one of these blue places, because that's where we're going to get the juiciest. Where do you want us to be?
Well,
Jason in the
let's be clear real
building.
quick first, Corey Ann. Like, this right here is not investor activity. This is the data sources. So those blue areas you're seeing right now are those direct to MLS data areas. Now, if we want to see the investor activity, then what we do is we click this button over here on the left, and then that shows us all the bubbles on the map. And that is the investor activity. That's where we get the visual representation, the heat map, if you will, of where people are doing deals.
Thank you for that clarification. This is so useful, guys, especially in that beginning when you're just choosing what market you need. And if you're just now getting with us, a reminder that we're working in Privy today. And if you don't have Privy, we've got a promo code for you. It is DAMG, and that'll get you 30% off the annual plan or 20% off the first month if you go that route. Let's see. What do we got?
Perfect.
Who's in the
I'm not looking
comments?
at the chat here. So what are some markets that are showing up that you think would be interesting to target? Maybe some high investor activity areas that have good direct to MLS data.
Oh, I see a couple like Jacksonville, Florida's.
Okay.
That one's a great market.
Yeah.
Lots of activity.
Yeah. Let's
Um,
check out Jacksonville.
cool.
So, right here, you guys, you can see that there are holes in this activity. So you want to avoid the areas that have just really holes with nothing going on, but you also want to avoid the low numbers. So like these 1s and 4s and 16s, those are markets you don't want to target. But if
Mm.
we come into the Florida market and get a little bit closer here, then we'll be able to see, okay, well, what's going on in the Jacksonville market? So there's quite a bit going on. There's not a ton of activity though. Like oh, there it is. Never mind. I thought it was 170. It was 1702. So
Okay.
there is a good pocket of activity right here above Jacksonville, which is positive. So let's zoom in here. And let's say you're not from Jacksonville. How would you get comfortable starting to like do some deals there? Well, the way you can start doing deals there is by first understanding what a deal is. Because a deal in Jacksonville is not even the same thing as what a deal is in Tampa, right? They're both in the same state. But it's might even be closer to what a deal is in Atlanta because it's kind of in the middle. But that's what this investor activity can do for us. It can teach us what's going on. What are the local market realities? What are investors buying properties for? What are they selling them for? And so when we learn that, that is the path that we can start taking to really getting comfortable with doing deals there, whether it's wholesale, fix and flip, or even buying rentals.
I like to tell people that you need buyers. Like a good deal, the only way to know if there's a good deal is if there is a buyer. So even in my super rural town, could something be a deal? Sure. I might be the only buyer. So it is kind of determined as to whether or not I see it as a good deal. Now, that's because there's no activity. In Privy, it's showing you that activity. So you can just dive in and actually see how buyers are moving. It's so useful. It's just, it saves you time.
Yeah, it saves you time and it'll actually give you confidence too, because you don't want to go out there and start writing offers on properties until you know if you can get that house under contract, there's going to be a possibility of the back end working, which is the disposition side, right? There's acquisition, which is getting the deal, and there's disposition. If you don't
Mhm.
have buyers, then your disposition is going to be next to impossible, which makes it unprofitable for you from a return on investment perspective on time and money. So don't invest your time into low investor activity areas because there's no buyers,
Mm.
right? And
Mhm.
so, and for some people, they think, well, if I can just get this thing really low at a low price, then yeah, maybe the margins are there. But again, if there's no demand for those properties, you're wasting your time. So
Mm.
make it easy on yourself. Target an area just like this, right? So what is a deal here? Here's a house that closed just a couple days ago. I'm going to open up this property here. I click the property card, and this is the comparative market analysis for that house. So our system is pulling comps. So that person earlier that asked about comping,
Mm.
we just comped it. We're done. Okay. We can go home.
Right.
See you later.
We're over today. It really is
But
that fast. Keep going. Show them, Benson.
yeah, so this is the comparable, right? So we're only seeing one. So you might be thinking, oh, there's got to be more comps than this. Well,
Mm.
there is other houses in this area, but the further you move away from our tight criteria, then the less relevant it is. So
Mm.
the first pass when we're comping is always really tight. So we use a 15% tolerance on the square feet. We're matching up stories. This is a ranch style home. We're only looking within a half a mile of this subject property and similar bedrooms and bathrooms. So you can see here that only one house was very similar to this house in this particular area. But like
Mm.
what Corianne loves me to do, she is to go in here and click all
My
just to kind of see what else is going on and then click the investor activity. So now that we come in here, you can see there's a lot more sales in the area that we hit because there's a lot of big houses here. See, ours, we got a pretty small house, honestly.
Yeah.
1,689 square feet. Most everything else there is much bigger or smaller.
So if we're headed to the before and after, that's where we're seeing like where they purchased at, how much work they might have put into it. Yeah, that
Yep.
looks like a completely different house. Okay, so even in this area that I don't know too well, but I do work in Jacksonville, I can tell you about the percentage that that buyer picked up at, and that helps me when I go into comping any kind of property because I know where buyers are moving at. And that's so on point. I was just about to say you're somewhere probably between 45 or 55, depending on location. And this particular zip code, that's part of the lower percentage. So it's great to see that that lines up with the knowledge that I already have, having sold some properties in Jacksonville. Um, it's just so useful. I have never found, and I've looked in the MLS for ways of even just filtering so the MLS would give me this type of information, and it still means I'm doing so much math, and this does it for me.
It does. And you're a licensed agent, so you have access to the MLS, but you
Mhm.
still use Privy because it makes your life so much easier. And even if you have the tools and you have the data, there's still a way of optimizing your business so that you have more free time to do the money making activities, not the
Yeah.
stuff that's going to bog you down, like comping manually or searching for deals or doing everything kind of just the tedious, monotonous manual way. Why not
Mm.
leverage automation? We're in the 21st century. Like, why do stuff the old fashioned way?
I mean, not everybody perhaps, but I believe that most of the people that come to this, that talk to me after this, like we're in it for time freedom. We're in it for financial freedom so that we can spend time with our families. And yeah, why bog yourself down with getting caught up in information that's not actually necessary when this filters so you can utilize that information. And now, if I were looking at a property in this neighborhood, I would be knowing that I probably need to pick up between 47 and 50%. That knowledge came from one click into Privy. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's so useful, especially for our newbies, because I think one of the easiest things to do in real estate is get distracted by all the different things we eventually want to do in real estate. And if you're here on Wholesale 101, you want to wholesale. And what that means is that you need product, and product is the property, and you need clients, and clients are the buyer. Those are the people that are flipping, and that's who this is.
Yep. And that's the next step here, right? So now we've got an understanding of what a deal is for one particular buyer. But again, no one property is going to tell you the whole story. It's just going to be a piece of the puzzle or a piece of the story. So
Mm-hmm.
we scroll down here into the assessors section here, and then this is going to show us who that flipper was. So this is a unique creative name, Unload My Home LLC.
That's fantastic. Whoever
So
names their business that, I want to know. I'd want to call them.
absolutely. And what we could do from here, and we won't do this today, you guys, because there's privacy issues in YouTube we have to be aware of. But I would take this and I would do a Google search. And then I would also look in open corporates to see if I can find the agent information for that, not real estate agent, but the designated agent,
Mm-hmm.
the director. There's some different names for the people that are associated with the filings of these properties with the Secretary of State. And so when you find that name, then you take that and you go to truepeoplesearch.com, and then you put the name of the person and the city and state that this company was registered in. And
Mm-hmm.
then that will allow you to find the people that are associated with those. And it will show you phone numbers, email addresses, good information about, the last time that phone number was used. So, was it used last week or was that number 3 years old? That'll help
Mm,
you figure out whether or not that's a number you want to call.
absolutely. Will you also show us public records? Because we had a pop-up question that we didn't get to at that moment, but it was
Mm.
asking how can you find low equity? And that information can be in here individually for each property because this sold to somebody after it was flipped. Now, where is their mortgage history?
Yeah, so this is the mortgage history for this house. The last mortgage on this property looks like this is their acquisition money because it's a balloon.
Mhm.
Was filed in July. Because they bought this property in July, right? So that lines up with when they bought the house. But the easiest way to find houses that are low equity are homes that were purchased most recently.
Yes.
So there's a really easy way of doing that using the filter, and you can come in here and maybe wanted to find off market properties, and we could choose the date range, and we could say, okay, we don't want any houses that were sold after or before, let's say like 2015. So that would
Mm,
mean that every house after that was at least 8 years old, right? So
right.
that's how you find low equity homes. The ones that were purchased yesterday with a mortgage have the least amount of equity. Then the
Yeah.
further you go back, the more equity there is. But we all know, because of the the mortgage, what's that called, Corianne? The when the mortgage goes up, I can't remember
The
the name of
interest
it.
rates
Not the
right now.
interest rate. It's it's the bell curve of how equity is paid. Um,
Oh, the amortization of
the,
that.
the amortization cycle. Yes, yes. So uh, the first half of a 30-year mortgage, the majority of the payment goes to pay interest. And then
Mm,
after that, then it starts to shift, and more of that payment starts to go toward paying down the principal and less of it going to interest. So that 15-year mark is a really good place to do it. So if I was going to look for low equity homes, I'd probably go back 15 years.
that's solid. I right now am in the sweet spot of 2019 to 2022 for low equity because they
Okay.
have such great interest rates. And normally that takes a little bit of finesse because you don't want to call everybody that bought a house in 2022 because most of them are probably not looking to sell yet. But sometimes you'll
Right.
find a pre-foreclosure with low equity, and that's a situation where we can truly bring some help to that family if that's the case.
And to be clear for everybody that's here, that person that asked that question about low equity is certainly looking to do some sort of creative financing approach,
Yes.
because that wouldn't be a straightforward wholesale deal. The wholesale people are looking for high equity properties, or they're looking for properties that have a good potential of after repair value. So you don't have to worry about so much what the mortgage is on the house as is, what's the potential after repair value of the house once it's fixed up. That
Mm.
percentage of ARV, it depends on the market, but like that last one we just looked at, was it like 48% of the after repair value? Um, so there's a different way of looking at that. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
For the
So
most
now that
part, like
we've,
oh, go on.
go ahead.
I was say when we're coming in to get maybe our first wholesale, that's definitely more of a wholesale 102. And if you are in the Astro community, I actually do have a wholesale 102 every other week on Friday, which you're more than
Oh,
welcome to join. But if you're just looking for your first one, let's go for a traditional. There's plenty out there. And what that means is that it's distressed, it's ugly, and we want to take that property at the right price so that we can place it with one of our buyers. Should we jump
mhm.
over and show them how to find those?
Yeah, and there's two approaches when we're looking for deals, right? So there's a low hanging fruit, the easiest ones, right? We're looking for motivated sellers, right? So motivated people who want to sell their houses. The most motivated people out there are the ones that have made the decision to put their house on the MLS. They're motivated, right? They raised their hand, they put their property on the MLS, they listed it with an agent, and they told us what they want to sell it for,
Mm,
right?
mhm,
There is another approach, which is off market properties. These are houses that aren't listed on the MLS, and you can everything that's not on the MLS is off market. Okay. Then the next point is, okay, well, we don't just want to do the shotgun approach and go for everyone that's off market. We want to try to find layers of potential motivation. So what we can do is come into the filter right here and scroll down to the bottom, and we have several filters here that will help you potentially find somebody who has some motivation because of some scenario they're in. Like
mm,
maybe they're in foreclosure, or they're a landlord and they've owned the house for 8 years or more, or a zombie property, which is a rental property that has been reported to the USPS, the post office, that it's vacant. So two
mm,
levels of motivation there, but we also have vacant properties, or just somebody who's owned a house for 20 years or more. like they're probably starting to think about, okay, maybe I'm going to move to Florida or Arizona, move into a
Mhm.
retirement home. And so there's different levels of motivation here. Now, these filters can be used for both on market and off market properties. Sometimes people think when I'm looking at these kinds of scenarios that it only has to be off market, but we want to really raise the level of potential value. A house that's on the market, we know the price and it's vacant
Yeah.
and it's a pre-foreclosure. Like there's multiple levels of motivation.
I think of those quick filters and tags normally as going direct to sellers. So will you show us how we can look at both on market and a pre-foreclosure?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So you just choose the tag. So let's do a filter here real quick. So um the way you can find deals through the normal process, right? Like if
Mhm,
Corey and I were going to go and try to find deals on the MLS,
mhm,
we'd have to go in there and let's say there was 100 new properties that came on the market today. I'd have to analyze all 100 of those to maybe find the 3 or 4 that have some good margins.
mm,
That means I just wasted 96% of my time on properties that weren't going to be deals anyway. So what if there was a way to eliminate those 96 properties that have no possibility of being a deal anyway, and then only focusing in on the 3 or 4 that are potential deals?
mm,
Well,
mhm.
fortunately, Privy does that for you. So if I click this button right here, it says find similar active deals. Privy's going to go in and it's going to run comps and analyze all the properties that are in that area. It's going to show us houses that could be potential deals. And what it's doing is it's comparing the price of the house that the seller told us they wanted to sell it for to
Mhm.
the comparables, the other sales in the neighborhood. It's going to compare those. In our initial pass, we set it at 75% of the ARV or lower.
Yeah.
Now, in that last house we looked at, we know they bought it at 48%. So let's adjust this down a little bit. Let's go down to say 60%. And then let's say, for example, we talked to one of our buyers
Mhm.
and they gave us more of their buying criteria. So we can adjust the filter to match whatever it is we're looking for. So let's just say we don't want to spend more than 580
Yeah, not in
and
Jackson.
we want it at 60%. Like that's a decent price range. So here's some properties that Privy found that could be good deals. So here's a house right here. It's for sale for 329. No ranch. Actually, this one looks like it's in good condition, but it's an older remodel. Look at those old cabinets. Like this one looks like they've probably done flooring and painting
Yeah.
more recently than they've done like kitchens or maybe even bathrooms.
This isn't a full rehab in any way, but they're certainly going for retail. They're leaving it very clean. They have it repainted. They're moving most of their stuff out. So I would suggest, like, I would assume, and this is a great conversation I could have with the agent, that they're expecting a very traditional sale. They're not expecting a quick one. Um, and I saw somebody ask a question earlier in this hour, and it was about if it's a retail property and a really nice property, what do they do? And I say unless I've got a buyer that's specifically like, hey, I want them completely fixed up, really, really rarely run across that because everybody wants more equity in their pocket immediately. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I pass. It's not a wholesale deal. It might be a great opportunity for a family to have a really beautiful home, especially once the interest rates are at a place where they can purchase that home. But is it something where I want to negotiate that price so that I can then go and sell it to my buyer? Rarely, especially after being completely fixed up. So that's why we want to look at these ones that are ideally uglier. We like them ugly.
Yeah, ugly's good.
Yeah, it is. I like this
Ugly's
one.
great. This one's a nice little ranch. It's a 3-2, 1946 built, 1,750 square feet. It looks smaller than 1,750, but maybe it's a deeper house. But it says investment opportunity. It's only been on the market a few days. And
Totally
then we
as
come down
is.
here to did it say as is in the description?
It did. So that could have been a keyword that we searched and would have pulled this one up,
Yeah.
or investor. Um, Also, guys, I am seeing addresses pop in, which is awesome. So after we take a look at this one, we'll start moving into your addresses.
Yeah, and this one here, it's in a neighborhood where they're doing some flipping.
Mm-hmm.
This property right here, this one down here is a little bit closer in price. It sold for 213,000. This one's probably a little too new, so let's hide that one.
Yeah.
And that one looks like some sort of an outlier. This one right here went for 213, and it was a flip. So this house that we can buy for 125
Mm-hmm.
is a 3.2. This one is a 2.1 and sold for 213. So 59% of the ARV
Yeah.
this house looks like it could be.
It's a little bit it's strange because it's smaller in terms of bedroom bath. Would you mind hitting the all and investor?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what else is out there just to kind of confirm those numbers. Because if no, that might be the only one.
Now there's others. I just
Okay.
wanted to come into the sold tab here, and you can see,
Mm-hmm.
um, there's quite a bit of other flips that are happening here. So all of the ones that have the light gray with the arrow to the black number, those are all properties that look like they're flips.
Yeah. Because what it's saying is that there was a recent purchase lower and then they resold pretty quickly. That's the data it's looking for, right?
Yep. If those two
Okay.
sales happened within an 18-month period, we put them together to say this looks like a flip. But of course, we know there isn't any sort of tag or data that the MLS tracks or that the county tracks that tells us that a house is definitely a flip. We just have to infer that it might be.
Do you mind scrolling up to I think it was 1605 at 155? Ooh, we just missed it. 1705 West 16th Street. I want to see the before and afters on that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
the
we're
little
clicking a
eye
little
gets there so much
information.
faster.
What's that?
I always forget about the little eye, and everybody needs to know this because it saves you time. Because I always like click in and then it opens it in another tab, and I'm jumping back and forth. And just this like last week and a half, I've started clicking that eye, and it's making it faster. Love it.
Yeah, it saves you some time here. So not a ton of good photos on this one. There's just a handful. But it did sell in July of this year, so that's within 5 months.
Yeah. Okay, so that one sold initially at 55. The other one sold smaller, but sold at 75. So I think that's about the range that I would be aiming for in a conversation, so that
Mm-hmm.
I could then add my wholesale fee and they would still be walking away with a really solid spread there. I always
Oh
want my
yeah,
buyers to make money.
for sure. Then they keep coming back, and that
Exactly.
builds a long relationship where you can ride the wave with them, and it's a give and take.
Yeah.
So when you
Let's
find a
jump over
property that you like, you can save it. You can put it into a list here, or
to
we can just favorite it, or if you want, you can share it with somebody. So you can click the share button here, and you just put the email address of the person you want to send it to, and Privy will send that property to them, and then they can open it up on their computer and see the same format that you're looking at, and they don't have to be a Privy user. So it's a really great way for you to collaborate with different people like your agents or your hard money lenders. If you're an agent, you can send it to your clients. So lots of different use cases for that.
That's wonderful. I rarely use that. I'm going to attempt to use that more this week, especially with my agents, because often they're like, where are you getting such great comps? I'm like, it's Privy. And if you guys don't have Privy, use the last name, one of our favorites, Damji, in the promo codes, and that'll get you 30% off the annual package or 20% off your first month if you go that route. How about we jump over and look at Peter's comp? Um, it is in the private chat if it's easier to copy and paste, or I can read it to you.
Yeah, read it, please. I'm in two separate pages here.
You got it. So 3525
Mm-hmm.
Sherry, spelled Sheree, Trail, Stone Mountain. That's the one. Oh, good. Some other people wanted to see some Georgia stuff too.
Cool. So
All right.
this looks like it is potentially an off-market deal.
Nice.
And it's in Stone Mountain. So it's a 3.2, 1,624 square feet. on the first pass, we're not seeing any comps. So
No.
this is more of a rural area, I'm guessing. So I'm going to click settings and I'm going to go in here and click all. I just want to see if there's much activity in the area at all. But one of the reasons I know this is not in the city is because it's way out in the boonies. Look at this. It's 24,000 square foot. That's half an acre.
That's a lot.
Um, that's a
I
lot.
want to know where we are in Georgia. Can you back up a lot just so that I can know, are we
Yeah.
above Atlanta? Where are we?
Well, and also too, you guys, well, actually, this looks like there's some neighborhoods around here, but I just clicked the satellite view. So the bottom right-hand corner, we were on
Mm,
the map view before, and
mm.
it's kind of hard to tell like what's going on. So I clicked the satellite view, and this shows us that it's close to like, some neighborhoods on this side, but over here, there's a lot less going on. So I'm going to zoom out here. Let's see, this is going to help you. Oh, okay, right here
I
it
have to
is.
zoom in. Oh, okay. All right.
So there's Atlanta.
Yeah. Decatur's kind of the sweet spot right now, like being about that close to the city. But hey, there's some investor comps that pop up. Let's take a look at them. That's a lot. That's a huge lot. And one of the things that we always like to remind people is if it's the biggest lot, biggest house on the block, or it's the smallest lot and the smallest house on the block, a lot of times that's not a move that we want to make. Like we really are looking for things that are similar to what our buyers are already after. And this is showing you investor comps so that you can know what buyers are after. And very rarely, and some they're out there, but very rarely are you going to find a buyer who's like, yeah, I want to take a risk this month. I want to try to make the biggest beautiful house and I'm going to get it sold. And a lot of the times if you don't see that activity, that is a risk. You could end up holding and that takes a lot of money out of your pockets while you're waiting for that right buyer.
Yep. Now I will say, and it's a little confusing, that this investor comps thing isn't going to help us in this particular scenario, because what it's doing is it's comparing the last sold price of the house to the price of these comparables, and it's seeing that there's a margin. But this
Mm,
house is not for sale for 114. That's what it sold for back in 1985
mhm.
or whenever it was purchased. Let's see here,
Oh,
2001.
oh, one.
So what I look at here is undersold. I'm looking here for any of the gray and black happenings.
Mhm,
There is not any investor activity in this neighborhood that we can see, like where that matches our algorithm.
mhm.
Um, so this is a low investor activity area. So it's going to be hard to make a deal like this work without
Yeah,
having to offer something really low, because we can't figure out the ARV on this house because there's no renovated houses.
yeah. And that's one of those like, would an investor actually take that kind of risk because they can't show any flipped beautiful properties in the area and what those sell for. So they're going to be the first one out there, canary in the coal mine, to make something beautiful in this neighborhood and hope that's what people want. When often like, a neighborhood might be liked and people want to move there, but they're not expecting or wanting the complete refresh. They actually are fine with the elbow grease that they're going to put in to make a normal home just there.
Yep. But what could be the angle on this one? I mean, and who's the person that posted this?
Peter?
Peter.
Yeah.
The angle on this one, Peter, might be to look for a different kind of buyer. So there's fix and flipper buyers, which we're not seeing a bunch of fix and flip activity in the neighborhood, but we
Mm,
got a lot of rentals. So over here to the right, this purple one, this is showing us all the rentals in the area. So there are landlords buying in this neighborhood. So what you might
God.
want to do is, talk to the buyer to see what, the seller to see what they're doing, and then talk to your buyers and see what they want. But there are a
Mhm.
bunch of people out here that have rental properties.
I would specifically go for I saw just a few rentals that are 1980s with a huge lot and it's showing what they want for rent in it, and that's exactly who I'd skip trace, and I'd have a conversation on whether they want more rentals in that area and what's important in their purchasing criteria when they do that.
Absolutely. This one here on Cherie Trail, it's on the same basic road. It's right down the street. and this one was a renovated house, or at least it's been updated. It's a rental, and it went for $1,825 per month. So that one could be worth looking at.
Absolutely. And just a reminder, so what we're basically saying is if there aren't any buyers, which we can't see now, let's go see if we can create some and find the right buyer. And so we're kind of backing into that deal. And the way to do that is to have conversations with people that are buying things like that and see what they need. And especially since this one's off market, you're bringing them a value opportunity by showing them this property once you're able to actually purchase it under whatever their criteria is. Um, so on the rentals, can we see the LLC?
Not through that current tab, but you can
Okay,
search the property address and it will find it. The team is adding that here in the next phase, where the public record data will show on the rental data as well.
awesome. That's so cool. All right, Peter, I
But
suggest going that route. If you've got other questions, you can always DM me on IG. How about we jump to another one?
yeah, one thing I will say here is, before we move on to the next one, is
Hmm.
that we can look at we can still come up with a value of this house. We just can't come up with the ARV because there's not renovation. So a very similar house in the neighborhood that, is a similar condition went for 218,000.
Boom. So if I were going to list this property in its current condition, that might be a comp I'd use as an agent to justify where I'm going to put it on the MLS, as is
Right.
retail price. Um,
Right. But
and
but
that's
so
a
you
really
guys
good
know
point.
that's not the ARV. This is just another house in the neighborhood, because again, if we have a low investor activity area, we won't have the renovated houses that we need to show what the after repair value is.
Write those things down. So the two words you need to know, and it's lingo that we're all using, is the ARV, and that means after the repairs are done value, and MAO, the max allowable offer. You'll hear those
Mhm.
things interchanged between all us wholesalers, so make sure you know them. To our super newbies,
Yep.
let's stay in the
Cool.
Atlanta area if you're ready.
Yeah.
2210 Bolingbrook, just Boling, Brook Drive, Atlanta.
2
Mhm.
words.
No, it's actually all one word. So you've got bowling right, and then add brook. Ah.
Court.
Um, I only have drive in Atlanta. Maybe Aaron spelled it wrong. We can always kind of try a couple things, or try separating the bowling and brook.
Yeah, that's not coming up that way. Bolingbrook Drive, Marietta.
Oh, yeah, that would be in the Atlanta area. So let's click on that one.
Okay. All right.
Another off market.
So-
Yay. Good job, guys. I'm so proud. Don't get those off markets. Um, okay, so immediately are we not seeing any, or do we have to reset it? Hmm,
You got to reset it. So I just went in
perfect.
and clicked reset. Um, and we're not seeing the public record data for this house. I'm wondering if this address is exactly right. Because typically
Oh,
what we do when we type in an address is we're trying to match that up with what's called the Google housing database. And
mhm.
when those match up exactly, then we can see all the public record data. But if there's something that's slightly different, then
Let's try it again, and this time with 2 L's. I got a new spelling dropped in the chat.
okay.
2 L's, and then it's gonna be Drive, Southwest Atlanta. Um, turn it to just DR and then SW. Sometimes
Okay,
you gotta
there's
outsmart
one.
it. Yeah, I think that's it. That matches better what I'm seeing in the chat.
Okay.
All right, Aaron, I think we hit it. Thank you for your help. Let's see what we can do with it.
All right. Yeah, for some reason we're not seeing the beds and bathrooms on this one. I don't know why that is. Could be an anomaly, but we are seeing some sales activity here. So if we sort by distance, we can click any of these columns and it will sort from smallest to largest. I'm sorry, from closest to furthest, or we can
Mhm.
reverse it and do furthest to closest.
Does
And
it tell us
here's
how old it is, at least? If not, I'm
no,
gonna look.
no, we don't have that. But we're looking at some of these other houses here, and this is a mixture neighborhood. There's some newer construction and some older stuff too, and all within. And you find that a lot in these kinds of neighborhoods.
Mhm.
Let me see here. Like looks like there's some things where it wasn't like a subdivision, but maybe an area where people just bought lots and started to build their own homes. This one's a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, it looks like it's not connected to this specific MLS perhaps because it is on market. So I can tell you it's a 4-bed, 3-bath, um, built 1959. So we can kind of see if it's pulling up any comps in that particular range. 49 days on Zillow. And they just went through a price cut. I can already talk about how I would move forward on this one a little bit without knowing
Okay.
ARV or comp, because I know that it's been sitting on market where my buyers can see it for 49 days, and it just took a price drop where it went down, so somebody could also take action on that. I know I've got to be lower than that. And so I would just call the agent and go, hey, what's got you, on market for 49 days? What's going on? And they might say, oh, we were under contract and then we fell out. There's so many different things that could happen in a conversation with an agent. And I would let that flow. I'd be just enjoying getting to know that particular agent and how I could add value. And then right there at the very end, I'd go, so is there any room for further negotiation to potentially talk about a lower price? And they might go,
Mm.
no, like we dropped it to 270. There's no way we're going to look at anything else. Great. I don't need to comp it. I just need to put it in. I'm going to follow up in 2 weeks and see if that motivation's changed. In fact, I might even tell that agent, hey, please let me know before you drop again on your price. Because for me to add value for my clients, I have to be able to show them why they work with me. And that means I need to give them a lower price given that this is sat on market for 49 days. So before you take that drop, please let me have the opportunity to show you my cash offer and what I can bring. And they're pretty open and receptive to that. They might be stern on 270 being where they're at, and right now they can't consider even talking to me about a lower offer. In 2 weeks, that could change. So I just follow up. Erin, I would
Awesome.
absolutely just take that route. And if she comes back and says they'll consider anything, they have to be living in Florida next week. Let's talk about what numbers we align on. DM me and let's like fine tune where you might be able to get that under contract because I know a couple buyers in the area.
Ooh, awesome. Are we talking about a JV deal?
Oh yeah, I will JV with all of you guys, especially in Florida and in Colorado because those are the ones I know. But I also have a lot of friends in a lot of other states that I know will take good care of you, just like I would. So always happy to those connections. That's why you guys come here. We want to give you as much as we can so that you can be successful in this business.
Absolutely.
All right, let's jump to
Very
another
cool.
one.
Yeah. Hey, LA Mars. Sorry, we don't have land data in Privy yet. Um, so can't help you there.
Not yet, he said,
Not
because
yet.
they're always working on something back there.
Let's look at
Uh,
Jacob's one in LA.
yes, please. Let's jump to the other coast.
Go to the opposite side. Let's check it out. Cool. So we'll come up here and get rid of this last address. Let's see, 914 East 49th Place. Older bungalow. I like these old bungalows. But it looks like it's on a hill. Or am I just seeing that wrong? Because It looks like a rancher in the front.
It's perfectly ugly in every way, and especially
Really
when you get
is.
close to that siding. In Colorado, we call this a craftsman build, and they
Mm.
actually go for more than other kinds of builds. It's that like front porch with the pillar vibe. Um,
Yeah,
so I would definitely be looking for something that has a similar face, hoping Los Angeles has that. Um, who doesn't want the little white swing or rocking chair on their front porch? It's cute.
interesting. Okay. So let's reset this. And then it
Guys,
looks like
just
this
a
is
reminder
actually, oh, go ahead.
Just a reminder while he is searching for the comps here, feel free to follow along. If you don't have Privy, it's so much easier to follow along. So just a reminder that we have the promo code, last name Damji. That gets you 30% off the annual or 20% off the first month if you go that route. I'm
Hmm.
seeing some flips.
So this is actually a multifamily property,
Ooh, challenge.
3 units. So there's some, looks like there's access off the back end of the property as well.
Mm-hmm.
650 in LA. Um, let's see. Oh, that's like just north of, no, wait a second. Is that Inglewood?
I'm not familiar enough with South Los
Oh
Angeles.
no, it's the opposite side. So there's Inglewood. There's that. So
Oh,
it's pretty
okay.
close to downtown.
Is it showing us some rental comps? Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yes, there's, this is a 2 unit that went for 1.28
Mm-hmm.
million.
While I was blabbing, people might not have caught the fact that in the filters, so you go over to settings on the left-hand side, you click on that, and he took it off single family and moved it over to multifamily. So we can see units, which is what we need to be able to comp something like this.
Yes. Yeah. So right here, you can choose the comp types. So, there is, there's actually quite a few multifamilies in the area. And multifamilies, you guys, are a lot more difficult to comp than regular, straightforward single family properties because there's so many variables. Because you think about just units. If you just wanted to compare, okay, well, let's compare a 3 unit to a 3 unit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the 3 units in this place might be all 2 bedroom, 1 bath units, where this 3 unit might be all studio apartments.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can make it challenging to compare multifamily properties that way. But the information is here for you to look at.
Can we see the 550 to 1.35 mil? Oh, that's a new build. Never mind. Okay, so we've got a lot of new builds in the area. You can click those little eyes on the left-hand side, guys, and that will get rid of anything that might be distracting
Mhm.
you that doesn't actually fit what we're looking at. Because 1934 to 2023 is it's quite a big difference.
It certainly is. Yep. And
Um,
then, but in the filter itself, you guys, if you want to do that like on one pass, you can adjust the year built right in here. So you can create a range if you want. So if you want to eliminate anything that's, plus or minus, 10 years or 20 years, you can do that by adding in your own range.
I love it. Let's just go back to there was one that was a 3 unit, and I'm curious. It was in the 500s, 1928, 3-1. Will you go to 1163 East 48th Street?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of hard to say. Looks much different on the outside.
Yeah. It's got a different feel to it.
Was active for 48 days before it sold at that price. I'd be really interested to see if I could get my hands on any photos of the inside, but sometimes it can be hard in multifamily.
Hmm.
Uh, okay, that was interesting. I want to head back and look at one other one. And okay, up a little bit. 1141 East 50th Street, please.
Oh, wow.
Oh, she was beat up. 3 units.
There's two on the back and
Active
one in
for
the front.
77 days. I'm interested in this moment as to just how long these things were active before they sold as multi-units. And I would absolutely go and I would find who bought them and probably call them and ask them if they want other ones in the area. But now I want to go back and see how long has our subject property been on market?
7 days.
7 days. Okay.
It's right here.
Um, I think to get that 650, just based off what I'm seeing, it's going to take them quite a while on market. So I would be having a conversation with them about motivation. Often tired landlords, they are more than happy to just sit on rent coming into their pockets until they get the right number. And I want to know that because if that's the case, I want to move on to somebody that is motivated. If it's a situation that perhaps the family inherited this property, they don't even know what to do with it. In fact, the fact that they're going to get taxed on it this year in property taxes in January is crazy, or whatever motivation they might have, then I want to start to talk about, well, are they willing to wait 70 days, 60 days? I'm looking at the other 3 units in the area and they got a 575, sure, but they had to wait 70 days for it. I'll give you a
Hmm.
550 today and I can close in 15 days and you're going to be able to use that money to celebrate the new year. And if there is motivation. So that's how I would start to approach um, because my goal is always to filter as quick as possible. And I need two things. I need especially motivation, and then I need buyers in the area. So one of those two things I would take action on in this particular property. Talking to the agent, calling the buyers of the two comps I just pulled up.
Perfect. Yeah, this might be one too. You might approach them with a seller financing option.
What is it showing in public records? They own it outright?
I'm not seeing a mortgage on this one. So,
Mm,
they might be able to carry back, the full amount or a partial, which could make it easier to put this one in a portfolio.
that's a great idea because I'm just creating a story right now, but let's assume this is a tired landlord. Selling under seller financing is very similar to what they're already experiencing, which is a monthly check in. The only difference is they're no longer responsible for any repairs. They're no longer responsible for putting in a tenant. It allows them to take that step back. And so I would be reminding them about that if I was pitching something like a seller financing.
Yeah, and then they don't have the capital gains thing that would potentially put them in a bad tax situation. Am I right about that? Because they're selling it
Yeah,
through seller finance. They're not getting a bunch of cash up front.
exactly. I was just about that's exactly. So the amount of cash that they're being able to walk away with, and how that gets taxed. I'm not a tax professional, but I know that a lot of landlords, a lot of investors are always wary of what that means. And so if they're not actually getting a lot of cash in their pocket today, but then they're going to continue to get paychecks over the however the terms are laid out for them, and they don't have to do repairs. I'm like, I'm ticking off boxes for you, sir. How am I not the right buyer?
Oh yeah, because typically if they sold this outright, unless they went and did a 1031 exchange, where they have to go out and buy another property right away. Like if they're truly a tired landlord, they don't want to buy again, right?
Yeah,
So they don't want to go put themselves in the same situation. So they're going to have a bunch of capital gains. But with a seller financing approach, if I'm thinking about it right, because I'm not a sub two or seller financing expert, they're not going to have that huge capital gains event where they have to pay a bunch of taxes. So it might be perfect for somebody who just wants some mailbox money.
absolutely. Retirement money.
Hmm.
Um, Thank you for sharing that one. That one was a challenge, Jacob. If you have any questions, you can find me on IG. It's really just my name. Um, I what are we doing, Benson? It's already 3 here in Central Time. How crazy.
It flew by absolutely quickly.
Mhm.
But we had a good time today. Thank you everybody for being here. And yeah, as well for me, if you are looking for more tips and tricks, and you're looking for some advice or some cool things to kind of watch when you're scrolling through your socials, please follow me on my channels as well. I'll put those here in the chat. I think I can post. I don't know if I can. But there's my socials there. It says this comment has failed to post. I don't know why that is.
I wasn't able to be in the comments today either. I've got to be logged in through YouTube, which I do have a new YouTube channel, just no videos up yet. And that's how I've been. I want to join the chat next week because I've missed chatting with you all. But thank you for being here. Next week, we're going to be here. So I'm actually very curious if you can give me some info before we leave. Do you want me calling agents next week, or do you want me calling buyers next week? If it's agents, give me a 1. If it's buyers, give me a 2, and I'll be prepared so I'm on the phone. 1 or 2.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jason. You too, Aaron. Glad you guys are here.
I'd love to see you talk to buyers, honestly, because I think I've only ever seen you talk with agents.
I normally am talking to agents and bringing in other people to talk to buyers, but I'd be more than happy to talk to buyers. They're a lot of fun. You can just be besties with buyers.
Yeah, it's mostly ones in there.
Okay, agents it is. Perfect. I thank you guys for your feedback. Thank you for being here and allowing us to share our knowledge on wholesaling. We're sending you a lot of love this week. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.